Meanwhile, Josh Norman and Dez Bryant got into it both on and off the field as the Cowboys hosted the Redskins on Thanksgiving. And the trash talk, well, it continued post-game.
This guy bumping to me like, what's up? Where I'm from, we didn't unload the clip, so pretty much whatever you want to do. Not that guy that see a challenge from my face and back down. That's not me. That's not what you're gonna get. So I'm sorry if I offended anybody. Well, actually, I'm not sorry I offended nobody because I'm be me. That's who I am. Grass it to the end. Like I said, I'm loading the clip all the way out to the end of the game. It don't matter what.
All right, he went Beyonce, sorry, not sorry. And then this. That was Thursday. Josh Norman confirming Dez Bryant's quote twice. And then fast forward to Monday, where he's retracting those comments and telling the Washington Post that Bryant didn't actually say that. Dez also expressed regret on Twitter for how he handled things. Will Kane in the house. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good.
What's up, man?
Trash talk, Dallas Cowboys. You might as well call my name.
Yeah, Mr. Cowboy.
By the way, we've been
flesh.
on the Cowboys bandwagon for weeks now. I don't know where you've been.
I noticed that they've gone 10-1, and I haven't been here. I think the last time you invited me, they were 5-1. And I can't help but think.
Coincidence?
Yeah, yeah.
I will confess, it's hard to look at you right now.
I know.
With the Cowboys being 10-1.
That's not the only reason it's hard.
I'll admit it. What would be the other reason?
Just jealousy, the jealousy you feel.
Stephen
With that shirt?
The jealousy
Okay.
you feel.
It's kind of hard to look at things. Is it hard to look at Josh Norman right now? How does this make him look?
It's hard. It makes him look bad. And I don't say that with any pleasure because I've gotten to know Josh, and I think Josh is a good dude. He's got what I consider to be an appropriate chip on his shoulder, considering how he's climbed that ladder to success, being on the practice squad and working his way up. But what he said was inexcusable because, again, as I pointed out on Friday, Max, when they were talking smack to each other, and I mentioned this to Will as well, in this day and age with the violence that we're seeing all over the place, whether it's in the streets of Chicago to the University of Ohio State, you don't sit up there and go out with that kind of verbiage and, talking about, emptying the clip and all of that stuff. And he said that Dez Bryant said that. And when asked by the reporters, he said twice, Dez had said that. And then to retract it and has come back and say that Dez did not say that, well, you got to also take into account Dez's history. Dez has been a model citizen pretty much for the last several years, but when he first came into the league, he was having some issues with his image. And so, saying something like this sort of provokes people to think about Dez in that light, had Dez indeed said something like that. You start raising an eyebrow and you're thinking about him negatively. And why? Because y'all talking smack on the field, you're going to use that kind of analogy. That was my only issue. So I'm just going to sit up there and say it's unfortunate that he did that. It's unfortunate that he confessed that Dez didn't say something like that, because even if Dez had said it, it was something I felt he should have never revealed publicly to the media to begin with. But especially now that we know he did say it, why'd you do that?
I have a different take than that. I understand that take.
Sure.
And at first, yeah, Josh, why'd you say empty the clip? But if Josh Norman is speaking extemporaneously, just revealing the gist of what was said, and he uses a euphemism for leaving it all out on the field, and it's an inappropriate one given our day and age.
Sure.
And then when people say, did he say that? And he doubled down, then he made a mistake, right? But when it came out and they asked Dez, he goes, no, I never said that. And it came back to Josh Norman. He stepped up and owned it and finally acted like an adult. At a certain point, you just got to say, okay, fine. I did it. My bad. What I want to focus on, so I'm not going to rake him over the coals for it.
I'm not raking him over the coals. I just said he looks bad.
And the reason and he could look a lot worse, but Dez Bryant is not making him look worse. I don't know if you'll like this or not as a Cowboys fan.
He's not.
I have so much admiration for Dez, the way he comports himself publicly. I know he's missed meetings and this and that, and he shows up late, and there's a problem sometimes, but the way he talks publicly when he addresses issues like this, given his background, the kind of teammate he is, he doesn't want to be a distraction. He doesn't even kill Josh Norman about it. He says, look, I don't have anything against the guy. I'm sure he doesn't have anything against me. It's over. He didn't kill him about it. Dez took a couple days of bad publicity, a couple news cycles, including on this show. If Dez Bryant said that, that's bad. And he doesn't look to get some grand apology or to really make Josh Norman pay. He lets him off the hook, puts it behind him, isn't a distraction to his team. And once again, in terms of what he says and how he addresses issues like this, I find Dez Bryant's behavior to be exemplary in these kind of instances, and I have a lot of admiration for that guy.
All right, I'm going to go with both of you guys here. First of all, when it comes to Josh Norman, I do want to rake him over the coals on something, and I do want to defend him on something. First of all, I'm very well aware of the statistics in this country on crime rates, gun crime, specifically in the black community, in specifically places like Chicago as well. So I'm sensitive to that.
Right.
But I also don't think we have to look at somebody saying unload the clip and think A, he's contributing, or B, he's insensitive to all these facts. Gun euphemisms are part of our culture. We talk about guys being sharpshooters, dead-eye. We talk on this show about blowing a hole in somebody's argument. It's constant. And it's not bad. It's not negative. It's just part of what... I think in no way does that kind of language contribute to actual violence. Words like that do not lead us to actual violence. We can separate the two. And Josh using that kind of language, unload the clip, the media started hyperventilating about that entirely too quick.
I'll respond to that in a second. Go ahead.
Then to rake Josh over the coals, though, he played into that. He saw it almost immediately. Because when you hear that clip, I think it's pretty clear he was talking about himself. He said it twice, and the second time it was very clear he was talking about himself unloading the clip, not Dez Bryant. So what he did, and this is the worst part, is then he lied. He just flat out lied, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Because the Washington Post reporter asked him to clarify. Did Dez say that? Did Dez say that? And twice he said, yeah, Dez said that. That's a flat out lie. One, Dez called him out on. And look, Josh has proven to be a provocateur, an instigator on and off the field. He twisted Dez's leg during that game. He stepped on Dez's hand during that game. He was trying to provoke Dez. And this is another example of that. And lying, in my mind, is just way, way over the line. Don't start making stuff up. Dez clearly thought that as well.
My response to that is this. I appreciate your perspective. I hear where you're coming from. And I don't want to debate this part because I think it would be unfair to you guys to debate it per se. But as an African American, and a lot of African Americans get upset at me for bringing this up, the reality is clear. Regardless, I'm not questioning Josh Norman's intent. I'm quite sure that, he's not a public speaker, he's a football player. And we got to understand that. And he's speaking extemporaneously off the fly in the immediate aftermath of a game. We get all of that. But the reality is that when you walk out in the street, we talk about people being role models. Why do we say that? Because of the impact individuals, particularly professional athletes, have on young minds. So it's not about what you and I know to be true in terms of what you just said and what he meant and how it was interpreted. It's about how other folks out there might interpret it, what it's perceived in terms of what kind of impact it's perceived as having. And I think when you talk about the African-American community, we have to be sensitive to what potentially impacts us from a detrimental perspective. On many occasions, I look at you, Max, and I talk about the numbers game. And I sit there and I remind people all the time, we make up 13% of the American population. The Latino community is 17% of the population. We're no longer even a dominant minority. When you talk about the incarceration rate, when you talk about the death rate and all of these different things, we attribute these things to a potpourri of circumstances. Those things can't be ignored. And so when you are out there communicating and conducting yourself in a certain way, there's an elevated level of sensitivity that somebody in my position and in Josh Norman's position and in Dez positions and others that we have to harbor because of how things directly affect our community.
Yeah, I would say this. In terms of sensitivity, I think people are way too sensitive about language, period,
I agree.
Generally.
I agree, but it's reality.
And I don't think these kind of words lead directly in a causal way to behavior. But they may have some kind of marginal impact on societal norms, right? If someone says unload the clip, and it kind of promotes this idea that guns are normal and this kind of behavior is normal in a very marginal kind of way that's very hard to measure. I basically agree with you, Will. It shouldn't be, should not start hyperventilating about it. But I also don't think Josh Norman lied quite. I think that was euphemistic language, as you're referring to. Look, we use this kind of language all the time. And then I think at a certain point, if I had to guess, he realized, oh, wait, are people hanging on to this, language? Wait, who said that? And he was saying, the way I interpret it...
Now comes the lie.
Maybe, if you want to call this lie, he was saying that's the sentiment that Dez Bryant expressed to me.
So
and then when it became an issue on shows like this and other media outlets, and Dez was like, time out, I never said anything about guns. At that point, Norman had to step forward and clear it up.
It's going to come off as I'm a fan, but I just want to agree with one thing you said. Man, it is hard not to like the way Dez comports himself. He seems to be real, and real's not good enough. You know, you better be really good if you're going to be real. But he's thinking out loud. You watch that interview he does with Ed Werder, and he's thinking out loud. He's like, I can't, and he's emotional. He's like, I can't move on. I want to stay on this for a second because Josh said X, Y, Z. And then Dez did respond. But when he kind of calms down, he generally chooses the right path. And it's not the perception of Dez. There's a perception of Dez out there right now that I don't know that aligns with who he really is. And by the way, I'll give Josh some of the same credit. Josh was being emotional. Josh was letting it out.
That's what I said.
My only critique of Josh is
acting,
not telling the truth.
But then he owned it. And eventually, he stepped up and owned it.
That's good. You're right.
Including for people like you saying he lied. He's like, okay, this is on me. And I 100% that Dez, his reputation from his point of view must be obnoxious because it is the opposite of who he shows himself to be, at least publicly.
My closing point is this. Neither of them are bad guys.
No.
That's not why we're having this debate. What we're discussing is the impact of their words and their actions. That means who you affect, not who you are. Josh Norman's a good dude. Dez Bryant has proven to be a very good dude. Both of them are elite athletes in the ultimate level of the NFL. It's about the impact of the lives they potentially touch. That's why professional athletics is what it is today. It's not because of just you. It's because of the lives you touch. That's all I'm saying.
And Stephen A., to that point, clearly they thought they were in the wrong, and that's why they decided to squash it publicly, and it's done. Will, you are sticking with us, and we're sticking with your Cowboys. Tony Romo is finally healthy, but a former All-Pro quarterback says teams should absolutely not trade for the Cowboys' backup. Do these guys agree? You don't want to miss that topic next. And Alabama continues to roll the competition. So what is Nick Saban all fired up about in his weekly press conference?
All I know is if we play and we play well, we control our own destiny in terms of what we do. So I'd really rather not have any more questions about, is it okay to lose this game? It's never okay to lose a game.